Chuck Kirkpatrick, and I'm here to share with you today a little bit about lighting through the centuries. If you think about it, this morning you got up. If it was dark, you had to turn on a light to a hallway or to a restroom. And through the day, you had various lights that you used, some in your car or automobile, sometimes in the porch light, sometimes it may be in the living room, and even in the bedrooms. But lights have been important throughout the existence of humanity. And so I'm going to start out with going back a few thousand years ago, sometime probably BC. And what I have here this morning is a lamp that was probably used by many of the ancients. Now, this is a reproduction. It's from the Roman Empire times, maybe even before. And it's made out of clay. And what they used then was an oil that was easily produced. Now, maybe if you think about it, what oil do you think they used 2,000 years ago plus? They didn't have kerosene, they didn't have gasoline, they didn't have any of the fuel oils that we normally think about today. But the fuel oil that they had was something very, very special, and it was grown on trees. Maybe to give you another hint, it was something that many people and many families have as a dessert, or rather as an hors d'oeuvre when it comes to Thanksgiving. I know in our own family, the black olives go the quickest. And so I just gave it away by saying that this is olive oil. Olive oil is used for cooking. Many of you eat olives. And also too is used for a rash or a sunburn, but also is used as an oil for burning in lamps. It was something that was grown in the Mediterranean area. The olive trees there flourish, and it's perfect. And so what I'm going to do is light it to show you just how bright these olive oil lamps would be. And as you can see here, it's starting to light, get a little bit brighter and brighter. And what you've got here is the oil comes out of the oil base and up a wick, and that's it. So it's a little bit brighter than what maybe a birthday candle. So if you can imagine at night, how many of these would you need in a home today to really light up the place? Now, 2,000 years ago, most people went to bed not too long after sundown, and so they didn't use these a lot. But they would have a few of these around to read or to share, or something along those lines. Now also too, later on, as you know, candles came into being. Candles were made out of fallow or animal fat, and later on from wax. And also too, one of the things that I have here is actually from a beeswax. And beeswax is known to melt down in a nice even way and produce a nice steady flame. And so many of you have candles around you may use for emergencies or things like that. But as you can see, the candle isn't really all that much brighter than what the oil lamp was. And so again, if you can imagine how many candles you would need around the house to really light it up, to do the things that you normally do. And for years and years, people would read and that by candlelight in the evening. So we still use them today, more decorative than anything, or at birthdays especially. But again, does not really produce all that much light. One of the other things that was developed over the years were the lanterns. As you can see here, I have a kerosene lantern, and it is one that many of you maybe have seen or you use outside and so forth. And it has a glow in the middle there, and it produces a good amount of light. And so I'm going to go ahead and use this, and we'll go ahead and take a look at it and see how it compares. As you can see, it can really start producing some soot real quick like. But also too, as you can see, these were hung, and maybe if you've gone camping, you've used these before, and you've hung them out on trees or somewhere, or you just enjoyed the evening sitting around with friends, and you had some of these lanterns around. And so that was another one that was used, and this one happens to use kerosene. Now, a couple of things that I want to share with you before we go any further is the idea about fire and lamps and open flames like this. Remember that it's always dangerous, and kids, if you ever are around some of the things with matches or doing something with fire, I highly, highly recommend that you have an adult around just in case something happens. But one of the things too is you got to be careful of is to not catch yourself on fire. And so what you need to do are three things. There was a 3-word description of what to do if something or a part of your clothing or something catches on fire. And it was stop, drop, and roll. Number 1, stop what you're doing. Number 2, drop on the ground. And 3, roll, because you can smother a fire. Or if a friend of yours is around and something catches on fire and they're doing that, you can also use something like a rug or a blanket or something like that to pat the fire out. So always be careful around open flames. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this one down like so. Also too, as time went on, oil has been found around the world for centuries and centuries and centuries. And going back to even the Chinese, back in before Christ time, BC, they would go ahead and they would harvest some of the oil for different things. But it wasn't until 1859 that a man by the last name of Drake went ahead and he was able to set up the first commercial oil well that worked pretty good in Pennsylvania. And it was there that he went ahead and brought in kerosene. Now here's another thing to remember. Prior to kerosene, from about 1600 to the mid-1800s, whale oil was used. Yes, they would actually go out, they would hunt whales on the ocean, bring them back, and they would process the blubber or the meat from the oil, from the whale that is, and they would go ahead and use whale oil. Well, they did it so much and they were so good at hunting down these whales, they almost went extinct. And so now they're protected, but for many centuries or many years, oil was used from the whale. But with kerosene coming, it was a lot easier and so forth. It was processed. And also, too, to give you an idea, gasoline, which was a byproduct of the refining for kerosene, was even thrown away by Drake and some of the oil companies at the time until they were able to find a use for it. So again, with this, you can see how bright it is. And also, you can turn it brighter or lower, and you can go ahead and use these. They were used for many, many years, especially in the country and throughout the world and throughout the United States. And then we also have then something that came along in the early 1900s with the Aladdin lamp. Now the Aladdin lamp was a little different in that it had kerosene and special oil for it, but it would burn a lot brighter than any of these others. And to give you an idea of what goes on with them, get this lit. Go ahead and put this on. Go ahead and watch the glow that occurs on the mantle when I have it burning. You can see more and more of how it glows and what it's doing, and it's much brighter than any of these others. And back in the early 1900s, salesmen would go ahead and they would have one of these in their salesman travel case, and they would go out into the countryside at night, and they would look for farms that had a dim light in the window. If they had a dim light, it was most likely one of the oil lamps like these. They would go up and he would show this Aladdin lamp. And there were a couple of things that were very advantageous with it. Number one, it burned brighter, but also number two, it used less oil. So economically speaking, It was something very, very good that they could use. And so you can see here, as it glows, how much more brighter it was than any of these. And the secret on this is in the mantle. The mantle doesn't catch fire, but the mantle itself, which is that cone shape in there, is made out of cotton, but it's also processed with some yttrium. Yttrium is a rare earth compound, and it's mined around the world. And what they do is they put it into powder form, and mixing it with some liquid, they go ahead and immerse the cotton into the yttrium. And what happens, it hardens on the outside. And the yttrium is what makes it glow so brightly. Now also too on these things, when you're using a lamp, anytime with a chimney like this, you've got to be very, very careful. Because what happens is, okay, you could see that it was lighting the match. And so that's how hot it is there. So you never ever want to put your hand over this, because that heat will cause a blister, to say the least, or burn you very badly. And also too, the glass chimney here, that is also very hot. You can warm your hands like this. I can feel the heat quite a bit just right here. And so this was the Aladdin lamp that was developed. And also too, as I said, it burned much brighter, used less fuel. And for many, many years, it was used around the United States, and as a matter of fact, all around the world. It's had factories in England, it's had factories in Australia, and a few other places in addition to the United States. And so one of the things you also have to be careful of is extinguishing this. Now, to blow out this flame, what you need to do is you turn this down, like so, and then you cup your hand and you blow into it to blow out the flame. Now, you don't want to put your hand over it, like I said, because it's hot. But you want to make sure that the flame is extinguished. And so, do something like that, and your flame is gone. So I hope that this shows you a few little things about the lamps over the centuries, whether it be the ancient Roman and before oil lamp here that was fueled by olive oil, or the candles that came along that were made out of animal fat, tallow, or even like this one is beeswax and wax, whether it be the lanterns such as this that brought light, or even the oil lamps that were so popular for so long like this. But truly the Aladdin lamp here has shown itself to burn much brighter, be much more effective, and also too, it can even heat up a small room without much trouble. So I hope this helps out a little bit with giving you an idea of the different fuels and also comparing some of the different lanterns. If you're interested further on some of these, if you call Lehman's, they will gladly answer any questions that you have, as they not only own the Aladdin Lamp Company now, but also too, there are a number of experts there that can answer any questions you might have. So thank you very much for watching this, and all of you, God's blessing, and have a great day.